and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at. Mayor Johnson is warning the city is headed for a shutdown if there's no budget deal. Tens of thousands of Illinois residents could lose health coverage as Affordable Care Act subsidies are set to expire at the end of the month.
We need regulation, not prohibition.
Chicago small business owners are sounding the alarm on a potential hemp ban ordinance.
All of us have a signature of some kind that we apply. I mean, I can't escape myself, really.
And remembering an acclaimed architect who left his mark on Millennium Park. First off tonight, even after a weekend of budget negotiations, Mayor Brandon Johnson is warning the city could see its first ever government shutdown if there's no deal in just 22 days.
The last time Chicago came close to a government shutdown was in 1984 when Alders, Burke, and Verdoliak tried to override Mayor Harry Washington's veto before striking a deal hours before the deadline. We don't want history to repeat itself.
Johnson has sent a letter to the 26 members of City Council who've signed on to a budget plan that does not include his proposed so-called head tax on corporations. In it, he tells alderpeople their proposal would raise monthly costs for every Chicagoan. 39th Ward Alderwoman Samantha Nugent told colleagues in a separate letter that she thinks the mayor's proposal is irresponsible because it, quote, borrows to pay for operations, shorts our pensions, is absent critical efficiencies, and pushes a tax on jobs that would kill economic growth. To read the mayor's complete letter, please visit our website. Dozens of tenants in a South Shore building that was once raided by federal immigration agents are being told to move out by Friday. Judge Deborah Ann Seaton today declined a motion filed by the tenants union asking for an extension on the eviction order as well as $7,500 in relocation fees. The judge cited the building's safety issues and said residents have already been offered moving assistance. But residents say they haven't had enough time to find new housing and that the resources being provided aren't enough.
People have been trying to get out of this building, right? It's not that people don't want to leave. It's not that people are dragging their feet. It's that it's hard. It's hard. People found out about this vacate date November 26th. We want to make sure that everyone in this building will be out by the 12th, but not out in the cold.
Tens of thousands of people are preparing for the annual pilgrimage to the northwest suburbs for Our Lady of Guadalupe celebrations. Organizers say this year's events and displays will go on as scheduled despite concerns around federal immigration enforcement. Church leaders say those who don't feel comfortable making the journey for whatever reason can live stream the events from home.
If you are coming to visit and you know people who, for whatever reason, traditionally they would come and this year they can't, we invite you to knock on a door. We invite you to go to them, find them, and ask them, do you have anything for me to pray for? Ask them, I'll take your flowers. Tell them, what you can't do, I'll carry you with me in my thoughts and in my prayers. I will carry you. We won't forget you.
The feast day recognizes the appearance of the Virgin Mary to St. Juan Diego nearly 500 years ago. The celebrations take place this Thursday and Friday. Almost 5 more inches of snow over the weekend. The city has had the quickest start to the snowfall season since 1978. So far, the city's total snowfall for the 2025-26 season is already at 17.1 inches. That's almost as much as the city notched in all of 2024-25 season. And the traditionally snowiest months still in front of us. So keep those shovels and snow blowers primed, because a potential clipper system in Canada could make a swing north of the region through this week. Up next, what the demise of the Obamacare subsidies could mean for you or someone you know, right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
residents who depend on the Affordable Care Act for health care coverage could see their premiums spike depending on which way Congress votes this week. A vote is set for Thursday on whether to extend federal health care subsidies that have helped make ACA premiums more affordable for some. But with those subsidies set to expire at the end of this month, as many as 100,000 Illinoisans could lose coverage. Joining us to dive deeper is Anthony Losasso, a healthcare economist and professor who chairs the Department of Economics at the Driehaus College of Business at DePaul University. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
So, as we mentioned, Congress votes this Thursday on a plan that Democrats have united around. It seeks to extend these existing tax credits for another 3 years. What changes could happen if Congress does not extend these subsidies?
Well, what's going to happen is that the temporary subsidies that were enacted during the pandemic, it was an emergency situation, it was a pandemic, that's what we're talking about. They are temporary. They are by act of Congress scheduled to end at the end of the year. So what they are is they're enhanced premium tax credits. These are for generally middle income people. They will the change will not affect lower income residents. There are middle income people who will experience greater exposure to the true cost of the health plans that they'll be considering purchasing within the exchanges.
Then what would the options be for some of those higher middle income folks who will be impacted?
Well, I think what we're seeing, and you mentioned, the expected number of at least an estimated number of people who might choose not to take up coverage, given that they're going to be paying more out of pocket for the premiums for these plans. They'll primarily be healthier people who drop coverage. And those people, who are going to be valuing coverage more will tend to be less healthy. And so that's one of the reasons why we're seeing premiums spiking for 2026. So that's really the nature of the change that we're talking about here.
Because that has an impact on everybody's premium, of course, when the bulk of people who are needing this particular coverage are less healthy. It costs more to care for them.
That's correct. Premiums are going to go up for everybody. Although, again, I will say that what the sum total of the change is that the average premium that is paid for by the government will go from about 88% to around 83%. So meaning that on average, people will be going from paying about 12% of premium to around 70%. If you're low income, it's going to be no change at all. If you're higher income, middle income, you will feel some of that change.
Take on more of that premium cost. So there's also a Republican plan, not up for a vote yet. It is called the Healthcare Freedom for Patients Act, Make Healthcare Affordable Again. It proposes ACA enrollees between the ages of 18 to 49 years old who earn less than 700% of the federal poverty level, that they receive $1,000 in an HSA, a health savings account, $1,500 for people who are 50 to 60 years old. Expanding plan options available to consumers by extending eligibility for catastrophic coverage plans to all individuals starting January 1st, 27, cutting Medicaid funding to states that provide coverage to undocumented immigrants, and prohibiting the use of Medicaid funding for gender-affirming care. Does this help, in your opinion? Does this help market incentives or just shift the costs?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of competing proposals right now flying around Washington. I personally don't think that they necessarily get at some of the major drivers that we're seeing. Again, it was called the Affordable Care Act. I'm not entirely convinced that it has made, and I think there's good evidence to suggest that it has not made healthcare more affordable. I would like to push us towards thinking more about reforms that maybe trade a temporary extension of the enhanced subsidies for more fundamental kind of structural reform of the subsidies themselves. I think those are the ones that are sort of mistargeted. This type of reform, I think it partly gets there because I do think you want to get patients enrollees to have, and patients to have money of their own to control with regard to their healthcare purchases. I'd like to see them get the subsidy in a health account of some sort so that they can use it to buy whatever plan they would like available on the exchanges. If they choose a more affordable plan, they get to keep the difference in their account, use it for their cost sharing, use it for deductible payments, use it for co-pays. I think that would be a smarter way to make some meaningful reforms and to stop the system that we currently have, which really is one where money gets sent directly to the insurance companies and enrollees don't really see it along the way. And so I personally would like to see the patients and the enrollees have more skin in the game. I'd like to see insurers be forced to compete more in the marketplace. They're called marketplaces, but as they're currently structured, really, insurers don't have a lot of incentive to compete with one another. And so reforms that are more structural in nature to try to move the needle on healthcare costs, I think, by incenting competition.
One of your peers, economist Craig Gaithwaite, recently co-authored a paper called Coverage Isn't Care, an Abundance Agenda for Medicaid, offering proposed solutions as well. Some of those recommendations include ease restrictions on doctors trained in other countries, allow nurse practitioners and physician assistants to practice independently, and loosen regulations to allow for AI-assisted care to Medicaid patients. Do you think those are those like some of the structural changes that you are also suggesting? Could those make a difference?
I think these are great ideas. Craig is a super smart guy. He's focusing on the supply side. I think that's really critical in healthcare, growing the supply side. That reduces costs. I'm focused a little bit more on what I guess as an economist I'd call the demand side. So how do we structure incentives so that the prices are right for these services and that there are real efforts and real means of competition in these marketplaces.
Of course, while having coverage is important, that coverage does not necessarily guarantee actual an appointment or affordability once you get an appointment. Should the policy debate, should it be shifting from coverage numbers to access and quality of care?
I think those are super important issues. They should always be front and center in any debate when it comes to healthcare because, yes, it doesn't mean anything. The nature of your health insurance contract doesn't mean anything if you can't get in to see a doctor.
Okay. That's where we'll have to leave it, obviously. Something to keep an eye on in the next few weeks as Congress continues to debate this. Anthony Losasso, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Up next, the politics of banning hemp in Chicago. A move to ban the sale of hemp products in Chicago has several alder people lit up. 13th Ward Alderman Marty Quinn has criticized the recent rise of smoke shops, calling them, quote, shady storefronts that, quote, prey on kids with products that look like candy. His proposed ordinance banning the sale of hemp-derived cannabinoid products in the city passed out of committee last week, but is drawing sharp criticism from the folks who make and sell hemp. Joining us for more are James Swartz, a professor in the College of Social Work at University of Illinois, Chicago. Josh Deeth, owner of Revolution Brewing, a Chicago-based craft brewery. And Nick Spizzato, alderman for the 38th Ward. We also reached out to a number of the proposed ordinances supporters in City Council, but they declined. Gentlemen, we welcome the three of you back to Chicago tonight. James Swartz, let's start with you. How did hemp-derived products become so popular, and why aren't they regulated the same way as marijuana?
Well, it all goes back to the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, which is now commonly referred to as the Farm Act. The legislators were interested in carving out a niche for hemp producers so that they wouldn't be fettered, they wouldn't experience the same problems that cannabis, which is illegal under DEA. So they removed it. They removed hemp from the definition of cannabis in the DEA scheduling of drugs. And what they put in the Farm Act to try and prevent hemp producers from producing intoxicating drugs was a restriction that the THC level, THC being the psychoactive ingredient in hemp products that gets you high. They put a restriction on the percent, 0.4% by dry weight, which is a very minor amount and wouldn't have a high, make you feel high. What happened was that created this hemp industry, right? And what happened was they didn't anticipate that enterprising chemists would find ways around that, and this was called a loophole, whereby
so they've been able to concentrate it, and you can get a bit of a high off of a hemp product.
More than a bit.
More than a bit of a high.
More than a bit of a high,
Good
yes.
high.
That's right. So there was no effective regulation. So since hemp was removed from the scheduling of drugs, there was no effective regulation on it as there was with cannabis. And that's how we got here.
So some states like Illinois have legalized recreational cannabis, of course, but they did not foresee that these types of hemp products would be the products that we now have on store shelves, like products that look like candy or snack food.
Correct.
And colorful packaging.
Correct.
I imagine.
Right. So the hemp products aren't subject to the same regulation that the cannabis products are, and that's true, and that's why these stores have been able to proliferate without having the licensing restrictions that cannabis dispensaries do. So you see, so there just is no regulation of these products at all, at any level.
At any level. Josh, you oppose prohibition, but you support the regulation of hemp products. What kind of hemp products does Revolution Brewing produce and distribute?
Sure, Brandis. We started making a beverage line called Reverb about 6 months ago, after kind of studying and doing our research for over a year. And we sell low dosage beverages with both CBD and THC in them. And both those cannabinoid ingredients come from the hemp plant. And they're very low potency, but they've become pretty mainstream in today's world. And we're selling them through our beer distributors. We're selling them to stores with liquor licenses that are already carding for people to be 21. And people are enjoying them. They look at them as an alternative to alcohol at times. And they're on the low potency, spectrum of what we're talking about here today. And we think there's a place for them in Chicago.
Especially as like sober curiosity-ness, that's a word, sort of increases in popularity. I imagine for a company like yours, it is interesting and useful to sort of experiment with a different product like this.
Yeah, like Dry January is right around the corner here, so the timing of this ban is, we were looking to appeal to people looking for an alternative that time of year. We've had a lot of people come to us and say, I used to drink your beer and I slowed my drinking or stopped drinking a few years ago, and thanks for making these hemp beverages. We really enjoy drinking these.
Alderman Sposato, you're a member of the Committee on License and Consumer Protection. You voted against the ordinance. Describe your thought process. How'd you arrive there?
Well, my thought process was I actually came into the meeting very open-minded. My mind was not made up. My colleague was talking to me quite often about it, and I just want to hear what the people had to say. And once I was there, I felt for the owners like Josh, even though Josh didn't get to speak. Many people there had the same thought process. They had business owners that built up a business and legitimate business owners as an alternative for ex-alcoholics, people that want to drink anymore, just something to get them going, something to make them feel better. It was a hard thing, so I did not support it then.
Have you heard complaints, or what have you heard from residents in your ward?
No, I haven't heard anything from anybody. I mean, we're kind of all on the same page about this. I know where my colleague is very concerned about the stuff in the grocery stores and the gas stations, whatever else that appeals to kids. So he's working on a compromise.
But in your ward, no complaints about smoke
some of my
shops
colleagues, I think 7 or 8 of my colleagues banned this in their ward. I was not one of them. It was never an issue in my community. So I just didn't want to destroy small business owners that are legitimately trying to do the right thing.
James, you've said that the health risks associated with hemp-derived cannabis products about the same as those associated with marijuana-derived products. What are some of those health concerns, and from which products in particular?
The high-potency products, so things like vapes, edibles, in particular for children. To the extent we're able to track what the problems these products are causing, and it's difficult because essentially what you have is two exactly the same drug. You have THC in both cannabis and in hemp, and so when someone shows up in the emergency department and says, "Yeah, I had poisoning, I took an edible," they may not be able to discriminate that it was hemp versus cannabis. But what we are seeing is a very distinct rise in poisonings among pediatric cases. So 1 to 11-year-olds primarily getting into the edibles of their parents or caretakers and showing up either at the emergency department or calling into the Illinois Poison Center. Those have been primarily what have been causing the problems that we see.
Josh, describe, if you would, like sort of the rise in popularity around sort of innovating, hemp-derived cannabinoid products and how businesses are responding.
Yeah, just to share the history of it, since that farm bill passed, it was actually the state of Minnesota who acted first to legalize these hemp beverages, and they legalized edibles as well, but low dosages. And they did not have recreational marijuana in place at that time. They do now. But that really led to a lot of the local breweries seeing that as an opportunity, learning more about this, making these beverages, and really finding a market. Up in Minnesota, you can go into a Target and buy hemp beverages. That's how mainstream it's gotten up there. And we're seeing it evolve pretty quickly here in Illinois. It's a wide variety of customers that are getting into these beverages that we're selling at 5 and 10 milligrams versus like my local dispensary, the lowest thing they sell in a beverage format is 100 milligrams. And that's not something that I would like to consume personally, but maybe there's a market out there for that. So it's a whole different market that these lower dosage beverages that we make are meeting right now.
Josh, what types of regulations would you like to see?
I'm definitely here to call for regulations.
Yeah.
So we sell, as a brewery, we work with all levels of government. We work within the 3-tier system of regulation that was put in place after Prohibition. We're a manufacturer primarily as a brewery. We sell most of our beer straight to a beer distributor. They warehouse it, they pay the taxes to the state, they collect the taxes from the retailer on behalf of the city and the county, and they deliver it to someone with a liquor license. They verify that the place has an active liquor license. And that's the kind of system that we need to put in place. I'm not saying it's exactly how we should do it, but it's a good model. In the cannabis sector, there's a similar type of regulatory framework in place to regulate everything, and that's the kind of framework that you have in place that has safeguards in there to make sure that stores aren't selling to anyone under 21 plus.
Before we run out of time, 20 seconds, Alderman, do you think your vote on the hemp ban will be the same by the time this makes it to City Council?
Alderman Quinn's a pretty level-headed guy. I'm sure he'll come up with something to help businesses like Josh and resolve this and keep this stuff out of the hands of kids. So yes,
I think there'll be a compromise versus an outright ban.
We're working on a compromise right now that I'm pretty confident I'll be able to support.
Okay, all right, that's where we'll have to leave it, gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Josh Deeth, James Swartz, and Alderman Nick Sposato. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, remembering a pioneering architect who left his mark on Millennium Park. A man who made his mark on architecture around the world, including in Chicago, has died. Frank Gehry is famous for his Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles and the Louis Vuitton Foundation in Paris, among other bold designs. Here in Chicago, Gehry designed the J. Pritzker Pavilion in Millennium Park. Here he is with the late Elizabeth Brackett on Chicago Tonight talking about that structure.
I think many people thought the trellis, the architects I've talked to thought the trellis, they just loved the trellis. It was so different and so unique. But some people said the curls was just sort of classic Frank Gehry. This was, now we have a Frank Gehry kind of statement. Is that what you meant it to be?
Well, all of us have a signature of some kind that we apply. I mean, I can't escape myself, really. The sound system, the shell itself, requires a certain amount of curvature to distribute the sound, because if you make it convex, it focuses the sound. So it's got to do this to distribute the sound infinitely. So circular shapes are used in concert halls in these reflectors. And I just took them and pulled them out over the trellis as far as we needed to get the sound distributed out as far into the audience as we could. And then all I did is flip them up. And that's the fluff, if you will, the last flip.
But I think isn't that the last flip, the ones that when people look at it and say, that's not Chicago. Chicago is strong and linear and straight. and what's going to happen when
Wait a
the
minute,
winds
I see
come
curvy
off Lake
buildings on
Michigan.
the lakefront over the
There is one, you're right.
icy tracks. I've seen them for years. I think there's shapes in Chicago. I don't think the river is shaped. Nature is shaped.
Frank Gehry died Friday at 96. And that's our show for this Monday night. Be sure to sign up for our free email newsletter, The Daily Chicagoan, at WTTW.com/newsletter. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10. Now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that gives back to its community in Chicago and beyond.